4th down, the final play, unless they can stick it in the end zone. Dorsey under pressure, throws it, incomplete. The Buckeyes win.
Ezekiel Elliott, and he's got an opening. Elliott off to the races. Can they catch him?
Feature the two backs as receivers, and now a downfield shot on first down for the end zone. Touchdown, Ohio State strikes first. Making adjustments again, and there is Smith running, breaks a tackle. Ohio State strikes quickly from 45 yards. Pressure comes. Saul, knock it out, and picks it up. Jeff Saul, coming down the sidelines. Ohio State scoop and score. And dagger from 82 yards.
Here they come.
Heavy pressure, Howard delivers downfield, and Smith, he's got it! Jeremiah Smith, the 2025 College Football National Champion, Coach Ryan Day, and the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Welcome in, Buckeye backers. We are bringing it to you live from Seattle, Washington, to the cornfields of Enid, Ohio. We are the pulse of Buckeye fans across the nation, with Seattle Matt and Buckeye Steve. Right now, here we go. What is up, Buckeye backers? I have to start that all over again. Waiting for Seattle Matt. He is on his way in, so bear with me while he gets in here. But the news of the week, Matt Patricia, defensive coordinator for Ohio State. If you're in the locker room now, tell me what you think about it. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Because it's going all over the board. So right now, I'm just going to start with a little bit of what I had from across social media. There's some people that like it, some people that hate it. I want to start here because the man, Bobby Carpenter, he said, hey, man, there's going to be some fans that don't like it. They don't like the hire for whatever reason. But he played for Matty P in New England. He's smart, he's measured, and he's as great as you'll find. Great communicator, incredibly creative. It didn't work in Detroit as a head coach, and I think that's important. We need to know. All right, we got Seattle Matt in here. We need to know that, sometimes it just doesn't work for whatever reason. And in Detroit, a lot of things don't work in Detroit anymore, including General Motors, right? It's just not happening anymore. It happens to a lot of coordinators, but he's not hired as a head coach at Ohio State. He's hired as a defensive coordinator. I think that's a great point. More takes on it. Michigan fans are loving this, especially Michigan fans that are Detroit fans, because they're like, it was terrible in Detroit. It was absolute dumpster fire. There's no way those idiots just hired Matt Patricia. Man, I can't wait till this comes back and bites them. And some more famous people, JD Pickle. He is saying it's a red flag. He had to talk himself into this being a good hire, and he's not big on Matt Patricia. I don't know. What do you say, Seattle? Tell me your thoughts.
I don't know if you want to hear what I have to say about him, man.
I absolutely want to hear. Your voice of reason is definitely needed. So give it to me.
I found it to be a very questionable hire on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
You look at somebody, and we've talked about it before on the podcast. I'm a very big proponent of there are coaches who are really good in the NFL,
mm-hmm.
and there are coaches that are really good in college. And it is incredibly rare to find that blend between the two. It's possible. Pete Carroll,
mm-hmm.
there are a few others you can name, but it's incredibly rare. And so right off the bat, you look at a guy like Matt Patricia, pretty much an NFL guy, right? So right off the bat, that's strike one. Strike two, you just see the way he handled himself in Detroit and just the way he handled the media, press conferences, interviews, how he conducted himself on the field. if you watch a few of those games, it looked like he just didn't have a grasp of the game. Now, granted, this is a head coach, not a D coordinator. I get that. And to be honest, Jim Knowles wasn't that great with the media either. He was pretty gruff, rough around the edges too. So,
I liked him. I liked every interview I got with him.
I'm just talking just the media presence, right? I'm not going to say Jim Knowles and Matt Patricia were identical, but you kind of felt like Matt Patricia was trying to mimic Bill Belichick. And guess what? There's one Bill Belichick, not two. Mm-hmm. So I look at that. And then 3, I just having heard interviews and what little I know about Matt Patricia does not come across like a strong spoken individual. And I'm saying that in terms of this guy's never coached at the collegiate level and he's not a strong speaker in that sense. I really worry and question about recruiting. So there's just a lot of aspects of this hire that don't make a lot of sense to me. And ultimately, I was actually talking with a Michigan fan last night about this. And the comment he made is this guy going to be able to relate to 20-year-olds when he spent his entire life working with grown adults? Yeah. And I didn't have a good answer for him.
Good. That's a lot of I already have the defense to all this. But before we get there, I just wanted to let you know that Doug Shepard is punctual and he wants you to be here on time. I'm just giving you a hard time. Seattle Matt has had a hell of a day in his day job, right? All those trades he's making.
We don't talk about the day job, man. We're good.
All right. I just said we're a bit behind, I covered for you.
That's my bad. I own it. That was my fault. I apologize, y'all.
Oh, and by the way, Doug loves the introduction. So we're keeping it. Doug's the leader of the locker room. He gets a choice.
So far he is, man. He's by far the best.
Captain of the locker room. All right. This is what Doug has to say about it. The pinnacle of my coaching career was Pee Wee football. Baseball. So I'm going to wait and see. Day knows infinitely more about hiring an assistant coach than I do.
Actually, before you rebuttal, I do want to add the one thing in all of this that I think a lot of people are forgetting. Day didn't have a lot of options. He didn't have a lot of options because he won a national championship in the majority of coaching staffs in both the NFL and college had been hired for. So you do have to take that into consideration when you're evaluating this hire.
Okay. Let's start here. Let's look at his coaching background for those of you that might not know. Matt Patricia, it's pretty extensive, right? He started his career off as where he graduated from as a graduate assistant, then goes up to Amherst as a defensive line coach. This is, all late 1990s to early 2000. Syracuse D-line coach. That's big boy ball. You're there now, right? I believe Dwight Freeney was on the team at that time.
Could be.
So that's something of note for later to talk about too. Then he goes as offensive graduate assistant at Syracuse. Keep that in mind too. Then he goes to the New England Patriots, assistant on the offensive line. Awesome. All right, cool. New England Patriots were starting to really make it big. Then he becomes a linebackers coach, where he wins his first Super Bowl. Some people debate whether he had 2 or 3 Super Bowls. That was his first one. He had 2 as defensive coordinator after that. Goes to safeties coach, then defensive coordinator. This is where he really, made a name for himself. Defensive coordinator. 2012 through 2017. Won the 2 Super Bowls as defensive coordinator. And a lot of people are giving him, flack, saying he just lived off of Belichick's back. Well, you know what? You could say that about anyone who's coached under one of the GOATs, right? Anyone who's coached under Saban, it's just because of Saban. Well, it's not. Look at what Kirby Smart's doing now. You can get good coaches that come out of a coaching tree of great coaches. Happens all the time. Look at
It hasn't happened under Belichick. Be clear. It hasn't happened under Belichick.
Belichick has not had a good coaching tree. You're right about that. Tom Herman initially did really well under Urban Meyer. Then he flopped at Texas. I don't know what happened there, but we'll see. Really what we're talking about more than anything is what happened at the Detroit Lions as a head coach, right? And I think
I don't think we should be, to be honest with you, man. I think
We'll
head
start
coach
there.
and coordinator is a massive difference.
We'll start there. So you go after winning 3 Super Bowls, your first stint in the NFL, and you get a head coaching job. You're cocky as hell, right? I would be. I would think anyone else would be. 38 years old, won 3 Super Bowls. This is my time. I'm going to go change this program around and make Detroit exactly what I had in New England. That's your mindset right then. Because all you have to reference at that point is Bill Belichick and what he's been like to you as a head coach, right? So I think you're absolutely right. Right on point. He tried to be Belichick in Detroit, and that just doesn't work. He's not Belichick. He needed to create his own identity. How many times have we heard coaches be like, just be you? Be you. I don't think he was him. He was trying to emulate Belichick in every facet. That's why he was tough on the media. He was tough on the players. You got to read your situation. You can't always be somebody else. And you can't, like, people read into that if you're not genuine, right?
I would agree.
Okay, so then we go, what do we do after that? All right, he gets fired. He ends up at the Eagles last year. But it was a weird situation, right? He takes over like 3/4 of the way through the season. Like, I don't know how we measure that either. Like, it was already a dumpster fire, and he comes in and it's still a dumpster fire. And a lot of people are looking at it like, all right, here we go. This team just won a Super Bowl. And he got fired from there last year when it was bad. So I think we're taking a lot away from the man who's won 2 Super Bowls and a genius. People that have played for him. Bobby Carpenter said, dude's smart. Dude's cerebral. Let's give him those Super Bowls. Let's see what he can do. And you said he's not a good recruiter. Well, you know what? Who else was not a good recruiter? Jim Knowles wasn't a recruiter. And I don't think, you've even said it yourself. In the college game now, you don't need a coordinator to be a good recruiter unless your name's Brian Hartline, and then you got to recruit because you're just that good at it. But Jim Knowles wasn't. Some of the recruits' families have said Jim Knowles didn't recruit much. He might have stopped by a time or two, but he didn't recruit much. Everyone else did. And they have recruiters galore behind them. Matt Guerrieri, great recruiter. Tim Walton, great recruiter. Larry Johnson, great recruiter. They don't need it. They need that guy with experience, right? Because Ryan Day has the experience for the offensive side of the ball. They need that experience for the defensive side of the ball. Thoughts?
I think there's many facets to recruiting. And, you know, the word I'm going to come back to is relatability. And my fear with this hire is I do not know if Matt Patricia can relate to kids who are 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, even 21. And I'll say this on 2 different fronts. One, I am worried about the recruiting side.
That's all he needs to relate.
Buddy, I could have got
in my
rings.
Office and look at my rings.
Dude.
And that's it.
Nobody
That's all he needs to
cares
say.
about the ring he has on his finger. It was Belichick and Brady. Like, let's
Dude,
get
I
over
care.
it. No.
Dude, you're going to be mesmerized if you walk into an office with someone who has a Super Bowl ring. No matter if you say you will.
Not if it's a Patriots one under Belichick, because I know
man.
It's Belichick and Brady, man. It's Belichick and Brady. Everyone knows why they won 6 Super Bowls. It's Belichick and Brady. It's not Josh McDaniels. It's not Randy Moss. It's not Matt Patricia. It's not any of that. It's Belichick and Brady. Was he a part of it? Fine. But
absolutely,
I wouldn't go be kowtowing that you were the key cog in winning a Super Bowl.
No, I think that's what he did before. And to Doug Shepard's point, you know, it humbled him. And I think that that's where Ryan Day had that conversation with him in the interview. Like, what did you learn from your experience in Detroit? And how are you going to take those at Ohio State as a defense coordinator? How are you going to apply those? That's a question I ask.
My first question to him would have been, how are you going to relate to 20-year-olds when you have routinely run a complex defense and you're used to dealing with 25 to 35-year-olds? That would have been my first question. I don't care, I don't care what happened in Detroit as a head coach. Again, coach, coordinator, completely different worlds. I'm not going to hold that against him, even though he had a really good quarterback there too, which is odd. Usually you stink when you have a bad quarterback. What I'm going to say is you've spent your entire life around professional men playing at the highest level and understanding the complexities of defense. So if you're going to come in here and you're going to be running half man, half zone, and if you see motion, you're going to check out of it and you're going to do all these stunts and you're going to do all this complexity with kids that were playing high school ball 2 years ago. That's what worries me. So when I talk about relatability, it's not just being able to talk to 20-year-old kids. It's being able to relate your playbook, your philosophies, and your concepts at a collegiate level, not at an NFL level. It worries me.
Mm-hmm. I do. He did say like a direct quote from him, which I like, and it kind of relates to your point too. We always morph the defense based on the talent we have. So that was his approach in the NFL. And
that's a
if
Belichick.
you're going to do that, Belichick, right? He is a Belichick disciple, right?
And that's a good philosophy. Yeah.
And I think it's great too. But along with that, he talks about having, running multiple different defenses. You're going to have to dumb that down a little bit at the collegiate level because you're not going to have the 24 hours a day practices. You're not going to have those long meetings. These kids are going to school, whether you like it or not. They're taking classes.
They are.
And they're not going to be able to run multiple different defenses. The complexity is going to have to be a little less. But the other thing that he says, he made a quote a little bit later. He said about Dwight Freeney. I said, we'll come back to that later. He said, when I was at Syracuse and we had Dwight Freeney, all we did was say, go get a sack, because that's what Dwight Freeney does. And sometimes we overcomplicate football, right? If you have the players, let them make plays. And that's where I see him and Caleb Downs meshing specifically with what he did last year. See ball, get ball, go be a player.
If he can do that, man, it's tough because
Lisa, what's up? Good evening. Go Buckeyes. Go Bucks. Go ahead.
It's really tough to hand the reins over to somebody like that and say, I trust you implicitly to go be a field general and to go do that. In Dwight Freeney, it's easy to say, go rush the quarterback, right? He also had the confidence in saying on 2nd and 7, he's also keeping contained. He's also playing the run too, because that's just an intellectually superior athlete and Hall of Famer and all the 9 yards. So it's a little bit easy to say after the fact. Is he going to have that trust in Caleb to run that defense and have that free reign that we saw him have in the playoffs? We'll see.
Yeah. The only problem is they don't have the guys to make up for it on the back end that they had last year and the other safeties that we had playing in the game. So that made it easier with Ransom there coming and blowing it up, having Simon there too to clean up shop. You could trust on all those guys. The experience we had last year, I think we're only returning 3 players, right? From last year on defense, losing 8 to probably the NFL.
Styles down and Igbenogson.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of other guys had some playing time, but that's where I think this experience of having someone back there on the defensive side of the ball with a lot of experience was needed. Like, you couldn't promote from within this year. It just wasn't the right year. Plus, a lot of those guys that are assistant roles, they need another kind of mentor, another kind of guy to get in their heads and give them a little bit different style, a little bit different approach, right? Before you promote from within.
See, I disagree because I look at the Patricia hire as a short-term hire, one way or the other. Either he's really great and I could see him absolutely going back to the NFL, or he sucks and he's fired. But I do not see, I would actually be shocked if it's more than 2 years, maybe even 1 year. Again, if he has a great year, let's say the defense balls out, there are usually like 8D coordinator jobs every year open up in the NFL. Who's to say he doesn't hop right back in the NFL a year later? So I think when you're looking at, you have a limited pool to hire from because you won a national championship, and you're looking at this guy that is really good, but he's a short-term hire at best. I would absolutely look at like doing what you did in 2023 with Brian Hartline. I'd say go give me Laurinaitis and Walton, or Walton and Guerreri. Give me co-coordinators knowing full well it's 1 year. Like, we're promoting you. We're going to keep you on the staff. This is 1 year. Let's work the back channels. Let's get a really more consistent long-term D coordinator in here. But y'all played hard. Let's see what you got.
They kind of
Hartline.
Halfway did that, right?
Sort of. With the co-coordinator. I know.
The co-coordinator role, the defensive passing game coordinator for Matt Guerreri, or
his promotion.
Yeah, and Tim Walton was the co-coordinator. Yeah. So I think we're on that trajectory. I don't think Ryan Day was ready for it yet.
Possibly. And this is, again, with Ryan Day being an offensive-minded coach, he's probably more willing to take a little bit of chances on the offensive side of the ball. I think if he was more defensive-minded and maybe could spend a little bit more time in practice on that side, maybe you give those chances to those younger kids. I don't know, but I see this as a very short-term hire one way or the other.
Well, if he does well, he's off to the NFL.
Absolutely.
Immediately. And 1 year, we hope for 1 year, and he's off to the NFL because that means success.
Yeah. I mean, look at Chip Kelly. Came for 1 year off the NFL. So
Ryan Day's rehab program is going over good. I trust his hires. The only bad hire he had was Kerry Combs.
And
Can you think of anyone else?
No.
I mean, he made that mistake.
Grinch, right? Alex Grinch was a bad hire.
Yeah, and that was in the same. That was at the same time, right?
Not sure.
It might have been a year after.
Yeah, that was a pretty bad one. And again, you're gonna have these on the defensive side of the ball when you have an offensive-minded coach. So you're probably not going to see as many bad hires on the offensive side of the ball because he's going to be able to sniff through a lot of that BS. Knowles was a great hire looking at that. So I really think this is kind of a blind spot for Day. And it was nice that Knowles kind of filled that gap, but you kind of didn't see a strong track record prior to Knowles. And now I think what you really want to see is Patricia kind of, again, simplify this defense, realize that this is not the NFL, where I would probably say 11 to maybe even 12 games in your regular season, you have more talent than the other team, which is not something you can really say in the NFL. And are you going to be able to simplify that concept and play? I don't know. It's just weird, man. It's just weird across the board.
So on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 meaning he's fired mid-season, 10 meaning best defense in the nation next year, where would you rank this? You just had to guess right now. What's this Patricia hire going to turn out to be?
A 3. And I say that because one of the things I absolutely loved about Coach Knowles was that bend, don't break philosophy. And that philosophy is outstanding in college football. You tell me, drive in and drive out, I'm going to force a college football team to go 10-plus plays down the field and score. Good luck.
They're going to make mistakes, really hard
to do. They're going to make mistakes, penalties, turnovers. Something's going to happen. And his philosophy was, fine, if you're going to go 14 plays and score on me, I'll tip my cap to you. But I bet you don't do it more often than not. I love that philosophy in college football. That philosophy cannot and will not exist in the NFL. You cannot have it. You have to play tight every single play. And what happens is that when you start blending complexity with that NFL mindset of tightness, I see it as a recipe for explosive play disaster. And so that combination worries me. So I put it as a 3. He's not fired midseason. I'll go on the record.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, and that's as bad as it gets, right? Fired midseason. So that's why it's a 1. So I give it a 9. So I can get all my fingers on the screen.
Not a 10.
I don't give it a 10, but I give it a 9. I think this is going to be an absolute success. And you kind of made one of my points. Every year from 2012 to 2017, when he was defensive coordinator at the Patriots, They were a bend but don't break defense. Top 10 in scoring, but often gave up a lot of yards. And yes, it was Belichick. You got to give the man credit. He was there,
Brady.
but he learned.
Brady.
His education was under Belichick. Bend but don't break. And he even said one of the best lines I had from Urban Meyer, and now I know where he got it from. He got it from Belichick. Find the fish. Urban Meyer always used to say that. And last year when me and AJ, we were Big Ten backers at the time, we went around and we were interviewing fans and stuff. And we always looked for that fish. We started calling it, look, we found our fish. Someone who was just dynamite, being loud, needed to be interviewed, right? So we found our fish. Go interview that guy. So, and I love that approach. I love that mindset. Let's find that fish. So they're going to look for the weakness in that defense. The guy who's never guarded anyone before. The guy that's always getting penalties in the passing game, right? And they're going to attack that. And again, football's not that hard. You go, you look for mismatches, you play that game within the game and win those mismatches, and you win the game. You find the best players and you do work with the best players. You stop their best players, you stop their bread and butter, what they want to do. Again, a Belichick thing that's come from Patricia. That's how you win the games, right? It's not that hard. And I think he's going to be great at it. And I can't wait to put this back in all the Michigan fans' faces that absolutely are just ecstatic right now. Could you imagine the hurt and the feelings if the guy who was run out of Detroit breaks the Wolverines' backs and ends this curse that we have, the 4-game losing streak? Because of his defense.
Weird. And again, it's not surprising that he failed in Detroit. Again, if you just look at Belichick's tree, they really are a product of the system and not standalones. And what's so odd about the Detroit run is, again, he had Matthew Stafford. Like, I can point to 50 coaches in the NFL that got fired, and I'll be like, tell me their quarterback. It's probably somebody that's terrible. Matthew Stafford's he's not going to, but he's borderline Hall of Fame caliber quarterback. So he had a great quarterback there too. And just all of it just doesn't add up to me as there's something missing. And maybe
some guys just aren't.
Maybe he's not a coach. You're right. Maybe he's not a head coach and he should stick to his lane and he's going to be a phenomenal D coordinator. That could be very true. And I don't think you need to stick what happened last year in Philadelphia on him. He was hired halfway through the season, right? He was not the D coordinator all season. That team had a lot of problems outside of that. So I don't really pin that on him. It's weird, man. It just doesn't seem like an Ohio State fit. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I think it'll be great. Look at the hires that Ryan Day has had. All right, his rehab. This guy, some of these don't make sense, but just to put it up there, like Bill O'Brien, he was gone before he was even here. Yeah, but Jim Knowles, great hire. Obviously, we could say that was great. Chip Kelly, some people question that. Some people question Jim Knowles in the start. Turned out great. Brian Hartline, not really rehab, but got hired on, is doing phenomenal. Kevin Wilson was one of those guys that I think is not a head coach. He is a coordinator, and that's where he needs to be. Jeff Hafley, head coach at Boston College, was doing decent there, but now he's wanted to go to the NFL. He's with the Packers. And Matt Patricia is the next one in line. So Ryan Day's coaching tree is pretty good. Like, his hires have been good, successful. Not stellar. They're not winning national titles, but they're finding their role. They're finding their niche, where they need to be. Chip Kelly, he's been all over the place, and now he knows this is where I want to be. I want to be a coordinator.
Yeah.
And I want to be in the NFL.
I mean, he's also 61. He's been around the block a few times, so that's a little bit different. Yeah. Yeah.
No, and he had time.
Dan Campbell
he had time to turn it around. They didn't give Matt Patricia time to, like, he needed to.
Dude, 3 seasons in the NFL is an eternity.
I guess, yeah. All right.
It's an eternity. You're seeing coaches get fired after a year or two. So,
but also, like, again, we'll go to back to the point. He was 38 years old. 38 years old there. And you just come off winning 3 Super Bowls. Like he just might not have been a good coach, number one. But number two, he just might have been over his head and overconfident. And what he learned from that, he's going to take back to this job. And he's going to get promoted to the NFL. I'm giving it a 9. This was a great hire.
I hope you're right, man.
I hope I'm right too. I'm
being
pretty confident I'm right.
Let me ask you this. You talk about a 9 season.
Mm-hmm.
If he has a 9 season, is he your defensive coordinator next year?
A 9-win season?
No, he's a 9 out of 10 on your scale.
Oh, no, I don't think he would be.
Okay. So this is a one-hit wonder. So he's a mercenary for a year. Is basically what we're at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Urban did not make it a year in Jacksonville. That is true.
There was other things that were going on there.
You're making my point from the beginning of the show.
A pit stop at a bar in Ohio, kind of.
No. There are people who are good college coaches, there are people who are good NFL coaches, and you really don't see that blend. Although I will say you will see it
going from the NFL back to college is a little bit more reasonable than the jump from college to the NFL.
I don't know.
Because it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to say, all right, I'm going to dumb things down a little bit and we're going to attack. I'm going to let my players play rather than try to change your philosophy on how you coach people, right? Because you change your philosophy on I'm in charge. I'm the one. You listen to everything I say. I'm going to kick your ass and I'm going to be the man. You can't do that with the professionals in the NFL.
No, they
are professionals. Like they know the game as well as you do. Sometimes maybe even better. You need to have them like as a team. And it's almost like talking to a colleague at that point.
In a lot of ways, there's a lot of power dynamics in the NFL too. Sometimes GMs control the 53-man. Sometimes the owner, i.e. Dallas Cowboys, pokes his nose in a little too often. So there are times where you can respect a coach, but he's mad at you. I'm not getting cut unless the GM wants to cut me. The owner wants to cut me. So you got a lot of power dynamics there. In college football, it's okay. You'll ride the bench till you hit the transfer portal. You do have a lot more control at the collegiate level.
Doug, I think we'll answer that question at the end of next season.
Nobody wants to be wrong more than me. This is not something I want you coming back in 11 months from now and saying Matt was right in February. I don't want to be right. I hope I'm wrong. And this doesn't mean I don't think there's any way this is a train wreck, right? So I want to be very clear. What my fear is going to be is some broken coverages at times, a little bit of confusion on the field, maybe at times players looking out of position, not really right. And hopefully it doesn't cost you a game.
Yeah, this is something that we're going to find out. Was it really him just being there? But the fact that he was there,
I agree,
is awesome.
I completely agree. I mean, anybody who watches the run of the Patriots, nobody's talking coordinators. Nobody's talking anything about it. It's Belichick and Brady. That's it. That's why you won. And it was an unbelievable Hall of Fame caliber, partnership.
But you don't think you learn from that? You don't think you learn those concepts?
You can't replicate Hall of Fame caliber stuff. I mean, Tom Brady can overcome a lot of your blemishes. So just because I'm taking a game, right? Just because Brady won a game 31-24, your defense may have given up 24 points and looked like garbage, but Brady saved your ass in a game. So that's again where I think to the comments in the locker room, it is really hard for him to tout around these rings because, you were a byproduct of your system. You weren't the root cause of that success. Like what you saw in the Super Bowl with Philadelphia. I can't even tell you the defensive coordinator's name off the top of my head. Absolutely phenomenal game plan. I look at that guy's Super Bowl ring and I say, yeah, you earned it because the game plan you put in place against Patrick Mahomes was amazing. I mean, the whole defensive line should have gotten MVP of the game. So, those are plays where it's a little bit different. You can't say that about Patricia with New England.
Did you watch any of those highlights of Travis Kelce not blocking at all?
I did not. No.
That was part of the reason. At least one of those sacks was given up by Kelce. When you're sacking a guy 6 times, a lot of that's just blocking.
It's the secret to success. Pressure on a 4-man front, especially up the middle, and you'll stop Hall of Fame quarterbacks. You'll stop anybody. Vic Fangio, thank you. I should have known that. Another failed coach who went to coordinator. So you're kind of making the point.
Where did he go?
He was a head coach in Denver, and now he's DC and Philly.
And Kelce, is just not into blocking. Yeah. He wasn't into running routes either in the
Listen,
Super Bowl.
man, when you get $100 million for your podcast and you're dating the most famous person in the world, maybe blocking's not your thing.
The defense was a rumor for that 2018 team.
Yeah, you can't play that. You can win 10 games in college football without a defense. You ain't winning it all without a defense. You have to be a complete team anymore.
That's back to Vic.
I think Dolphins, not Hurricane. Yeah.
Yeah. How were they?
How were who?
How was Miami that year? 2 years, not this past year, but the year prior.
They went to the playoffs and they lost to the Chiefs when it was like 0 degrees there.
Oh yeah, so that's not bad.
Well, we're talking Vic Fangio, man, not Patricia. Yeah. But again, I think that this is where you look at that, and that's where I think Michigan fan can laugh about it, but you very much have to differentiate his time in Detroit versus what he does as a defensive coordinator, because it's not the same. Vic Fangio looked atrocious in Denver, solid defense in Miami, right? Playoff caliber, won it all this year. And you can make a list of 50 names of failed coach, great coordinator. So you do have to take the Detroit stuff out of it. Now, if you hire Patricia as your head coach, that all comes into evidence. You can fully make that case.
What we need to look at.
I'm going to flop you with the other Steven. This guy knows his NFL stuff. I like it.
Yeah, I don't pay attention to the NFL hardly at all. Once it's out of college ball, I'm done. I really could care less about the NFL, to be honest with you.
Steven, man, with a V, bringing the good takes. I appreciate it.
So that's why I wanted to ask you guys, and maybe both of you will know about defensive coordinators for the Patriots, how they've done other than Patricia taking over other defensive coordinator roles.
I'd have to see a list off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's something I'd have to look at. That's something we need to look at, because then you could say, it was just all Belichick. If they just completely flopped,
I don't need to see a list to tell you it was all Belichick.
Well, we know Belichick had his hand in it, and
you had Mangini, Eric Mangini, which was pretty solid. He was a defensive coordinator, 2005. He was an okay coach. You had Romeo Crennel. Don't need to bring that up for Browns fans. He struggled pretty mightily. Yeah.
Yeah.
The MPs, I'll be honest, I'm not familiar with. I mean, it looks like Patricia is one of his longest tenured coordinators based on the list I'm looking at.
Mm-hmm. And it was during the Super Bowl runs. Yeah.
Well, part of them. They won 3.
Two of them.
They won 3 in the teens. I think 1, 3, and 4. Yeah. And that was Romeo Crennel. But Romeo Crennel, he never went to college. He was always in the NFL. He struggled pretty mightily as an NFL head coach.
Did he? No, what I want to know is, did he go back to defensive coordinator anywhere?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yes, but if they did well somewhere else as a defensive coordinator afterwards, that just proves the point that they learned something, and Patricia probably would too at Ohio State. He learned a lot from Bill Belichick. He was a good teacher, a good knowledge provider, I guess, a good scheme builder for the future, for the guys that took over other places.
I mean, Steven's making the point that I've been trying to make for 20 minutes. It's not even Belichick's defense. It's just Belichick and Brady. Like, we can sit down and break down 20 years of coordinators in New England. It didn't matter. It was Belichick and Brady.
But because he was there to learn from the guy, you got to give him some credit for that.
You know, it would be like saying what good quarterback that backed up Tom Brady turned out to be really good in the NFL as well. And the answer really, besides a mediocre Jimmy Garoppolo, is nobody. And the reasoning is Tom Brady wasn't really interested in teaching backup quarterbacks or doing a lot of stuff like that. I think something very similar with Belichick. You come in, you run my scheme and do it, but nobody could do it like Bill.
Sure.
And so it'd be like, you know, when Larry Bird's coaching the Pacers and be like, go make that shot. I used to make it all the time. Well, I'm not Larry Bird. And you can see that struggles with a lot of coaches saying, well, you got to learn from them, so you got to emulate them.
But what did Belichick do without Brady?
Nothing.
So was it just Brady then? And it wasn't Belichick at all.
That is the great NFL conundrum. I mean, Brady won in Tampa Bay at the end of his career. Was it Brady? Was it Belichick? My argument is it was both together.
And it couldn't have been both together as far as a head coach and a defensive coordinator.
I don't think Belichick wins without Brady, and I'm not really sure if Brady wins without Belichick. I don't know. I mean, it just kind of worked out extremely well.
I'm gonna go with a success, man. It's a great success. Get some NFL talent. The guy's had head coaching experience. He's had offensive coordinator experience. He's had defensive coordinator experience. He's learned under the GOAT. I think it's a great hire. And you have everything else around you. You have great coaches on the defensive side of the ball that are going to help. Larry Johnson's been in the system forever. He's been at Ohio State forever. You have great talent everywhere. The guy's used to coaching talent. So here we go. He's going to, and he has a motivation. That's what I like more than anything. Like, he has that motivation. All right, I'm down. I need to work my way back up. I was beat on in Detroit, and everyone thinks I'm not going to make it. You know what the type A personality needs? Sometimes you need to be knocked down to get back up on your feet. Sometimes you need to be told, I'm not that good, to bring you back down, humble, and then have that drive again, having that year off to be like, I'm ready.
We're going to see if he has it. I'll say it like that. I don't know.
We're going to see real
Does he
quick.
have that drive?
I thought the referee just won it for Tampa Bay.
No. Again, go back and watch what beat Mahomes, Vita Vea, pressure up the middle. It's Mahomes' Achilles heel. It's any quarterback's Achilles heel. So
yeah, well, you get to him the quickest. And then there's nowhere to go. I mean, if you have defensive ends too, if you're getting pressure up the middle, good luck.
You know, I think this is going to be really intriguing. I don't know much about Coach Patricia, right? I'm not a Patriots fan. Obviously, watched him here and there. You know, I don't know what his driver motivation is. There was a commenter talking about his degree. It's well known, Matt Patricia, highly intelligent individual, right? Off the charts intelligent. Does that translate to relating to college football players? I don't know. Does he have that drive to do that? Sometimes you really worry about highly intelligent people have a difficult time adapting. And so I don't know. And if Dave's like, listen, keep it simple. Do not overcomplicate this. Our talent is better than 98% of the teams in college football. Lean into that and make sure there's not a lot of explosive plays. And if he keeps them in that lane, I think
he knows that. That's why he wants that. That's why this job is appealing. You have better talent than anyone. Let's go out and make this happen and get that paycheck in the NFL. I'm ready to get back where I belong as a defensive coordinator in the NFL. Give me that shot. I'm going back to this. Bobby Carpenter played under him. He's a defensive dude. He knows. I'll take his comments over some Joe Schmo every day of the week.
again, that's Bobby Carpenter looking through the lens of a professional NFL player.
Mm-hmm.
So you come in and you say, hey, guys, we got a really good scheme. It's a little complex. We're going to run it. I'm going to trust in you all. We're all trying to earn our next paycheck and do great things. That can resonate in an NFL locker room. You start looking at, practice, right? And people are missing reads and missing concepts and not understanding things. We'll see.
Hey, Ryan Day has a hall pass for a couple years. All right. Give the man a little bit of length on that leash, man. We're not yanking it back.
You're making the argument for me where I actually do like going a little more internal on this hire, because I think you do have that leash, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have the ability to say, I have this year where I'm only returning 3 of 11 starters on the defensive side of the ball. So right there, you already have a knock against you, even though you have 4 and 5 stars obviously behind them. This is the opportunity where I can grow and develop this year. I've got a weak talent pool because I won the national championship. Why don't I hire a few guys from within, get their feet wet? Let's see what the next cycle looks like. If I can go out and get a top-notch, high-end D coordinator, great. If not, I've got a year of evaluation of Guerreri and Walton in these guys and see what I got there. So I actually think he missed a prime opportunity with not promoting from within.
I think he knows his guys. He knows they need just a little bit more experience. Go back to a little bit different scheme, learn from someone else, and then blend that together.
Then why did he promote Brian Hartline in 2023?
Because he can run the offense if he wants to, if he needs to.
So it's the fact that he's an offensive-minded coach. He's probably identifying the defensive side of the ball as kind of being his blind spot. And so Absolutely. He really needs that help on that defensive side, and he can take more chances on the offensive side.
Yeah, just how Saban did the same thing at Bama. He wanted a coach over there on the offensive side of the ball. He can control the defense if he needs to.
Yeah.
He's running the same exact approach Saban did. I don't even know if it's on purpose. He's starting to hire these guys that need to get in and get out, because you're going to lose your coordinators anyway, eventually. Yeah. They're not all staying 6 years. Most of them aren't even staying 3. So might as well get the best guy that needs to get back, the guy that has the drive to get back to another position. Who's going to work the hardest? I know for a fact the people that are going to work the hardest are the ones that really need something out of it. They really want to propel themselves to the next level. So those young guys who want to get to the next level, be a coordinator, be a head coach, they're going to work the hardest. The guys that have been shot down a little bit and want to get back up, they're going to work the hardest.
That's fair.
Failure breeds success, man. And Bobby Carpenter does know football. It doesn't matter how much time he spent playing. He was there. Take it from a guy who was there.
I'll always take it from a guy in the locker room, right? He sees it. Bobby Carpenter is a professional. You can separate out the fakes and the reals very quickly. So, especially in the NFL.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned this earlier, Doug. You said you're hoping he gets some exposure to different philosophy, defensive philosophy, and then Guerreri takes over after Patricia leaves. And I think that's the plan. I think him and Walton are going to be co-coordinators at some point, maybe a year from now, maybe 2 years from now.
Very possibly. Again, I think if your scenario comes to fruition, Matt Patricia is pretty much going to go to the NFL. Again, you're looking anywhere between 1 to 2
years.
You're looking at a minimum of 5 to 10 D coordinator positions opening up pretty much every year in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
So if he goes out and he goes, I don't know, 13-2, right? And they have a phenomenal season, he's probably jumping to the NFL. And that's fine. I think Ryan Day is probably anticipating that. Like I said, 2 years would be a miracle for Patricia.
Hey, I got to get to some Dano seasoning for 2 reasons. 1, because it's awesome. And 2, because someone's going to get mad at me if I don't. Get you some.
Yum, yum, get you some. Yum, yum, get you some. Yum, yum, get you some. Yum, yum, get you some.
seasoning, food's favorite flavor.
Yum, yum, get you some.
I'm Joe Burrito, your favorite burrito. Whoa, whoa.
Joe, we
Hey.
all know you're the best.
What?
You can always do better.
What you got?
Try the new Dano's Hot Chipotle.
Hey. Ooh, that's spicy. Yum, yum.
Yum, yum, get you some.
That's why Doug's the best.
Yeah. I love Doug being in here, man.
Yeah, it's good, man. I appreciate
He
you, Doug.
contributes to the conversation. Excellent. Fire some facts. Steve's been great in here. Steven too. So I think Steven's a Michigan fan, though. I'm guessing. I don't want to put that on you if you're not, but
Yeah,
really sounding like it.
He's got an edge to him. I like it. But don't be insulting people before you know him, man. Come on.
Well, he seems like he likes the Lions an awful lot.
Northwest Ohio. You may like the Lions. They're
Maybe.
not too far
Maybe.
away.
So what's next? Do we need to talk a little basketball? You want to talk a little March Madness for the Buckeyes?
We can, man. I'll give you 4 minutes.
4 minutes. Come on, man. You love basketball. Let's get this. Let's talk about let's talk about this. Jackson Cantwell. Are we going to get him? I don't know.
I have no idea, man.
But we did, I think, lose one of the top in Ohio. Riley got crystal balled, and it wasn't to the good guys, to Clemson. Kind of reminds me of this old recruiting show. I hated that when he left. When he went to Clemson, it was a little different scenario, though. I think Clemson was a little bit better of a team than we were at that time, but then we got to beat them in the end. So if we do lose another top offensive tackle in Riley, I really hope he gets beat by Ohio State again in a bowl game. Man, it sucks losing those big time Ohio guys.
It's so
early. It's so early.
I mean, he commits to Clemson tomorrow. Guess what? He could be at 3 different schools by the time it's official.
Back to the defensive coordinator. All right. So Ohio State, are they 9 seed right now still for basketball?
Yeah, you're seeing with Joe Lunardi's bracketology, 9 seed looking to go against Gonzaga. And you know, at 15-10, that's pretty impressive being 9 seed. So it's really a testament to the incredibly difficult schedule they had. I absolutely love that in college basketball. Tom Izzo perfected that concept. Good on Coach Diebler to do that. Yeah, but right now sitting as a 9 seed, both in the tourney, and it looks like they're a 9 seed right now in the Big Ten.
I'm afraid they shot themselves too well of a game against Washington. They're not going to hit any threes against Michigan this Sunday.
Well, for all of us that don't want to hear it, Michigan is the number 1 seed in the Big Ten right now, at 11-2. So
they got a stretch run. Their schedule.
They do. They do. When you start looking at it, they haven't played. They still have 2 games against Michigan State. So I haven't played Michigan State this year. So yeah, they've got a tough run. You know, it's nice. It's at home. I think that's good. And having these 2 games at home, and then you got the West Coast road trip to UCLA and USC. But Northwestern's a bad team. Might not even make the tourney. UCLA's fine, upper echelon, but beatable. USC is right below Ohio State, so they're pretty much even in the Big Ten. Nebraska's not great. That was a terrible game on Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, we got to get them back. We have to get them back.
Oh, they should. Nebraska. Again, Nebraska's behind them too, and Indiana as well is behind them. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5.
Or 4, 6 are teams behind you. So you gotta go 4-2. And I'll tell you what, 11-9 in the Big Ten this year. Oh yeah,
I think they really should. I think they really should win 5 of those 6 games.
UCLA's tough. I mean,
but they need to win one of UCLA or Michigan. And if you are an Ohio State fan, if you like basketball at all, get to the Shot on Sunday afternoon.
Absolutely.
Pack that place, man. Get it loud. Coach Diebler was calling for it after the game. He said, "We need you, Buckeye fans. We need the best damn fans in the land to show up. Get there, man. This could be, getting back to the NCAA tournament, getting back to that dance. I want to see it. I want to see that house packed, man. Packed. Absolutely packed.
Yeah. I mean, you beat
Don't have
Michigan.
anything better to do. You're in the Columbus area. You're within an hour of Columbus. Just get there.
There's no
show up.
football anymore on Sundays, and
Yep.
beat Michigan. That'd be your 5th win against a top 25 team. That's huge for a resume. So
Yeah.
I
And
think
make
it
that
is a really
place
big
loud.
win. And you're right. If you can go, you don't have to go 5-1. In fact, I think if you go 3-3, I think you're great for the NCAA tourney. But you go 4-2, 5-1,
Mm-hmm.
you may get a 7. You may be up to the 7th seed.
Well, that will bump you up also in the standings in the Big Ten, and you might have a better run in the tournament, the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, again, I think the Big Ten tournament only appeals to me is if you need to make a deep run to justify yourself with Selection Sunday committee. They don't
Kind
need
of
to
like
do
last
that.
year.
Yeah, if they go 4-2, I think they're pretty solid. Maybe win a game in
Oh,
the
yeah,
tourney.
I got that wrong. It was Adam Guthrie that got crystal balled to Clemson. Yeah, and hopefully Bowen can get them to stay home. They were shooting lights out, man, against Washington. I hate it when they do that right before a big game because I don't want them to.
Were you shooting
I don't
lights
want them
out
to wait
because
for
you were
shot.
hot, or were you shooting lights out because you played one of the worst teams in the Big Ten and you were open and could make them? I mean, so if you're playing a really good team and you shoot lights out, then I think that argument applies. Washington's in a rebuilding here.
They've had some good wins though too. They beat Maryland, right?
Who?
I think they had a couple. Washington.
I don't think
I think
they've
they
won
had a
lot
couple
this year,
big
man.
wins. Yeah, but they beat some good teams, which will happen, I guess.
I don't think they have at all. No, it's
No good wins.
no. They beat Eastern Washington.
Oh yeah,
They got beat by Seattle U, buddy.
yeah. I saw that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought they beat someone like Purdue or
No.
Maryland.
No. They did beat Maryland. Maryland,
Yeah,
but they were
that's what I've
unranked
been
at
saying.
that time.
Oh,
Sorry,
they
I
were
got-
400 at the time. Yeah,
Maryland was not ranked at the time. Yeah.
yeah, but still, they were a good team. It ended up being a good team.
They got a first year coach. I mean, you gotta give him a few
And
years.
he's had some good experience, man.
Yeah.
Was it Montana State? I think it was Montana State.
Montana State and
and
then Utah State. He did
Utah
well
State.
in there. Yeah.
Yeah, getting them both to the big dance. Something Ohio State has to do. Got to get it this year.
We are
Gotta get
talking. We are talking Washington Huskies basketball. We are scraping the bottom of the barrel, buddy. Cannot go any lower than this.
Did you see about the Ohio State football players? Back to football, because that's where our bread and butter is. That's what we love to talk about. 15 invitees to the NFL Combine. What'd you think about it? Did you see it? Did you look at it? Is there someone that got missed that should be there?
I'll be completely honest. I didn't see the list, but I mean, 15 is not surprising. But I will say they don't just invite everyone. I want to say somewhere in the ballpark of 400. I think you're
There
dealing
was
with
329 former college
okay.
football players that went. And the ones that went for Ohio State are Cody Simon, obviously, Donovan Jackson, Josh Simons, Seth McLaughlin, Denzel Burke, Will Howard, Tyleek Williams, Ty Hamilton, Quinshon Junkins, Travion Henderson, Lathan Ransom, Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimolo, Emeka Buka, Jordan Hancock, and I don't know if I said Denzel Burke already, but Denzel Burke.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big deal. 15 from one school is a lot. Again, you're saying 329. You're looking at 256 draft picks in the NFL draft. Obviously, undrafted free agents are pretty popular. You get about 10 to 20 per team. So that's quite a bit. But that means a lot of players aren't getting that exposure. And, pro day has been diminished quite a bit, to be honest with you. I know a lot of players like to hold out to either run at their pro day or stuff, but I know scouts aren't a huge fan of that. They kind of like to see everybody there. And especially quarterbacks, dude. I think that's really appealing with quarterbacks because, when you go to your pro day, it's okay. These are guys you have a cadence with. You're used to throwing to a Buka. You're used to throwing to Smith. What's really great is when you have that timing and everything down when you just met a guy 15 minutes ago. So I think that appeals to quarterbacks at the combine, but it all varies anymore. Some of them don't lift, bench press. I mean, some of them don't do the 40.
And Ohio State players are notorious for not running the 40. And
they like to do it at pro day. That's the problem.
Yeah. Where they feel comfortable. I mean, I guess I would want to, right? A place that I've been doing it all the time. And supposedly Ohio State's got a fast track.
I also don't see anything wrong with you run at the combine. Let's say you run a 4.5. You're like, no way, man, I can do a lot better. You go to your pro day and you run a 4.35. People remember the 4.35. So it's not like you're cursed if you have a bad run or you only bench, 27 at 225. You go to your pro day and you do 32. So they're going to take your best numbers. So I've never fully understood that, especially if you're at big university and you're having a pro day.
I would agree with that. Fryer would be a undrafted free agent. That would make 16 draft picks if everyone else gets drafted. Well, I guess it wouldn't be a draft pick as a free agent, but whatever. 16 going to the NFL, which is awesome. Looking forward to see
Travion. You got to make the 53, man. So we'll see. We'll definitely break it down. I think we'll definitely break it down a lot more post combine. That's when things really start heating up. That first week of March. So be interesting to see. Travion, dude. I think the only thing I worry about is what doctors are going to say about him physically. I think he gets in with a lot of those medical professionals and they give him a clean bill of health. Maybe he sneaks into that second round. I think if there's some question marks, it could be third or fourth round. Yeah,
and that's – I mean, he played a full season this year. That shouldn't be too much of an issue.
Oh, it's an issue.
I know.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to look at it hard because he had some injuries. I mean, that derailed 2 out of the 4 years of his career.
Absolutely.
But it looked like everything was great this year. What I noticed about him, though, is he looks like he picks up speed as he goes on. So and he's obviously fast, but he hits that second gear and he's just gone. Just blows everyone out. I would like to see the difference in him in 100 yard versus a 40. Because I think that last bit, he just takes off, man.
He
straight out of a cannon.
But I think when you're looking at the NFL in the first round, especially, even really the second round, you are looking for who could be that potential 3-down back. Now, NFL teams shuffle a lot. You see a lot of 2 running back systems in the NFL, but you're not seeing guys taken in the first or second round unless you feel really confident they're 3-down backs. I don't know if Travion Henderson's a 3-down back in the NFL.
Well, I mean, this is where he took himself to a different level. We talked about this. I think we did it on a podcast, or it might have been just a conversation between me and you. That run blocking that he's had where he's decleating people has taken him to another level in the NFL too. I'm pretty sure we did mention that on one of the podcasts.
Possibly, but and I think that was honestly, I mean, Ezekiel Elliott was an amazing talent, but his run blitz pickup was off the chart, and scouts love that. I always go back to a guy like Maurice Jones-Drew. He always sticks out of my head because I don't think any running back pick up the run blitz better than him. And he was just a little guy, but he would blow up linebackers. It was incredible. Oh, yeah. And Elliott did it too. And to Doug's point, Travion did it too. And I'll tell you what, NFL teams
makes a difference
of that. And you're going to find your way on the field, especially on third downs, when you can be that scat back, but you can also pick up the run blitz when they need it.
Greg, I don't know. Let's move on. Howard, where do you think he goes?
Too early to tell. I think that is somebody who needs to ball out at the combine.
Well, we kind of mentioned it. It's a weak quarterback draft.
insanely weak. I mean, there are
But
people talking.
everyone's going to be drafting quarterbacks.
No, I mean,
They're
potentially.
still going to
look at
draft quarterbacks. I mean, you need them.
maybe. I mean, but you look at last year's draft, you had 6 quarterbacks taken in the first 12 picks. There are people saying that if Cam Ward and Shadir Sanders were in last year's draft, they'd be quarterback 7 and 8.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe not. I don't know. I'm a little more bullish on Cam Ward. I see where they're coming from there. And I think you're right. You're probably going to see Shador and Cam Ward go in the first 6 picks somewhere, whether deservedly so or not. I think the most intriguing part of the quarterback draft is going to be who's that second tier. You know, Jalen Milroe got knocked quite a bit in the Senior Bowl. Jackson Dart seems to be rising up the boards. I don't think people have a good peg for Kyle McCord, and I don't think people have a good peg for Will Howard. So I think you go out and you see McCord and Howard ball out at the combine. It wouldn't be shocking to see them second-round picks. But if they go out and they're sluggish, they're 4th, 5th round.
Yeah. With what Will Howard showed at the end of the playoffs, I would imagine everything he does is great at the combine, especially his 40. He's going to be a lot faster than people realize.
Nobody cares about that at the NFL. I mean, what separates
arm strength.
the NFL is arm strength.
That deep
and
out,
accuracy,
15-yard out from the opposite hash.
The 15-yard out is crucial in the NFL. Arm strength's essential, and you don't have to have you don't have to be Cardale Jones or Jamarcus Russell, right? You don't have to have a cannon of an arm. You just have to have a really strong arm. And then secondary's accuracy, but I'll tell you right now, that was the biggest knock against Josh Allen, probably why he fell to being the 4th quarterback drafted. And I wouldn't say he completely fixed it, but he got significantly better with it. So there is that philosophy with some footwork changes, some arm angle changes, you can fix components of accuracy, but it's arm strength. And I'll be blunt. I don't know if Will Howard has that NFL caliber arm strength.
I think if he has his feet right, he does.
We'll see. Combine will show a lot. Combine will, and again, it's not even deep ball. Nobody cares if he can throw the ball 50 yards. It's arm strength and accuracy on those intermediate passing routes.
Well, you don't have too many 50-yard bombs in the NFL.
It
just doesn't happen. It's not as easy. You can't just speed by these DBs in the NFL.
But you need to zip the ball in at times on 3rd and 12.
Tight spaces,
on a 13-yard out, 13-yard in. Those are real NFL throws you got to make. In that window, it ain't college open. It's NFL open, which means it's about that big. So it's tricky. And Doug commenting on arm strength, and I'm just speaking of the fact that I can't speak to it. So I'm not saying he has it or he doesn't. You know, I love watching the combine on the Saturday. They always do quarterbacks. If he doesn't have the arm strength, you're going to see him go in the 5th round, maybe 6th. So,
and I don't know that everyone in the talking heads, some talking heads are saying he's going to go a little higher than everyone imagines.
He has a great combine, dude. It's very possible because, again, I think you're going to see that first wave go. I really don't think you're going to see a 3rd quarterback in the 1st round. But there's a really high probability you could see a few quarterbacks going in the 2nd round, especially with Cleveland sitting at 33. Yeah.
Highest drafted Buckeyes. Who you got?
Ooh. That's a good question.
Donovan Jackson?
No.
He
could be a fringe 1st rounder. Ibuka is going to be a 1st rounder for sure.
Seth McLaughlin and probably
no.
Josh Simons.
Josh Simons is if I had to take a bet, is probably going to be the highest drafted Buckeye. I think if he can have a good combine, he starts putting himself in the echelon of Will Campbell or Kelvin Banks, which are right now considered 1-2 tackles. But I've seen some mocks have him up there with those 2 tackles. If it's not Simons, it's Ibuka.
Tyreek Williams?
No, second round. Probably.
You think of Buka's number? They're 1-2.
Yes, I think those 2 are 1-2. I don't know who goes first, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it's 12 to 25 in that range. But yeah,
where do you see Sawyer going?
2nd round.
2nd round?
Yeah.
I can see him pulling in mid to late first round.
The only thing I could say theoretically is you look at a team like Detroit, who's really looking to get that bookend outside of Aiden Hutchinson.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if he just has a killer combine, puts up great, bench press, really wows, maybe late first to a team like Detroit, possibly Philly. Kansas City's always looking for that help. So you could see him maybe falling in there. If not,
that would just hurt to watch. Like Ohio State, Michigan, go meet at the quarterback.
See, but that's the flip on the NFL side.
I know.
At the end of the day, like I'll tell you right now, I want the Browns to trade down, and I want Mason Graham. That guy's a baller, man. He's an absolute baller. I would love him. And I hated Braylon Edwards, but mostly because he sucked with the Browns. But I'm gonna play, man. If you can help the Browns win, I don't really care where you went to school.
Sure. And I'm just not an NFL guy. I like watching college. I like the different offensives. I like the explosive plays. I like the deep ball.
I get it, man.
So NFL just really isn't my cup of tea. Plus, I spend so much time watching college football, I just don't have time. I watch replays of college football on Sundays, so it's not happening. Got little kids to take care of, take them to sporting events, take them to church, whatever else. Sundays are off limits. Unless it's college football rewatches.
Better than my Sundays, man. I'm just disappointed and sad at, 120 every Sunday. So I get it, man. Good for
Maybe
you.
That's why.
Because the Browns suck.
I like to watch the winner. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone likes to watch the winner. And I don't think we have any. I think that's the show, man. I think we talked too long. We were planning on a half hour, 45 minutes. I do want to let everyone know in the locker room, we're probably going to do an every other week here shortly. I think we'll be back next week, but it's looking like after that, it's going to be every other week, right?
Yep.
It's starting to get in that offseason. We got to take some time off, spend it with our families. So thank you, Buckeye backers, for joining us. Come on back next week, and then we're going to get into the every other week schedule. So hit us up on Facebook, hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, whatever you prefer on social media. We'll be there. But if you are listening and you are new, hit that subscribe and give us some more viewers on YouTube. We thank you very much. Keep coming back. Buckeye backers are out. Peace and God bless.